that the four men had to their helpless friend who was a sinner. They were concerned about their friend. They knew that they had no hope for his recovery unless there was divine intervention at last, unless there was divine healing. Perhaps one of the four had more concern, and he enlisted the other three and said, hey, let me tell you about this person who can take care of our friend. Maybe that. Maybe they were relatives to this sick person. Maybe they were neighbors to this sick person. And they somehow believed, but they also had concern. They cared enough to go into this situation and really start doing something about that. Now, another thing that we can see in these people, we see their confidence. They were sure that Jesus actually could take care of that business. That Jesus could, give them what they needed. They had faith in Christ. They believed that Jesus could meet their deepest need. The four who brought the paralytic, they had faith in Jesus' competency, in Jesus' ability to restore their friend. Now, another thing that I want you to see, I see in this story conspiracy. Now, typically, a lot of times we use this word with a little bit negative connotation, but somehow they had an agreement. I guess we can call it conspiracy, in which they agreed. They came together and agreed to do that. Again, maybe it was one of them who had the desire more than the other ones, and he enlisted the help of the other ones. Maybe this person who had primary concern talked not only to the other three, but maybe he talked to 10 people or 15 people. You know how it is. If you want to do a good thing, in your youth group or something like that, you go to one person and he said, no, I cannot help you this time. I'm busy. I have school. I have work. My mom doesn't let me do something. You know how it is. A lot of excuses. We all have excuses. So maybe this person who had this passion of his friend to receive healing, maybe he approached, 10, 15 other people until he found the other three. But we see that there was some agreement to actually participate in this. We also see that they cooperated, they worked together. They worked together in bringing their friend to Jesus. Now, most likely, they each had a corner. It says in the Bible that the sick person was brought in a bed. How did that look like? I've seen some illustration of this picture that actually depict the actual bed made out of wood, with posts and like real wooden bed. And they are carrying, that heavy bed. I don't think it was like that. Maybe it was some sort of a mattress of sorts that they actually, or some mats in which they brought their sick friend to Jesus. Now, again, we don't know how it looked like, but they had to have some cooperation because they had to get the guy to Jesus, they had to lift him on the roof, they had to dig through the hole, and they had to cooperate, they had to, plan the activities and all of that. So, you see, when we bring people to Jesus, we also cooperate. Even the Bible speaks about that. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, beginning of verse 6, I have planted, Apollos watered, but God gave growth. Even in the church, we are cooperating and we are doing it for God's glory, right? So even when we are calling sinners to Christ, a lot of us work together and we need to do that. These friends